Sheriff, what was the moment that maybe you realized Helene was not going to be like anything we'd ever experienced before here in the mountains?
Great question. So I will tell you that I'm born and raised here. So I can't really tell you there was an exact moment that came to pass that I said, hey, this is real, because it's still today unreal. When I look back on it and think about it, it's like this is not supposed to be in Asheville, in Buncombe County, because again, I'm born and raised here, and that's one of the things we all talked about is that a hurricane would never get in the mountains. And so even today, it's still a challenge for me to fathom the fact that we did have a storm. And I can go around and see different places, the devastation. It's still hard to comprehend, still hard to take that in. So I don't want to avoid your question, but I don't know that I can really answer that because I'm struggling today, realizing that it did happen.
And what were some of the challenges for your crews in those first 24 to 48 hours, thinking back on the year milestone?
Well, I would tell you that at the top of my list is the breakdown of communications. The fact that this was a storm that no one, and I was to say this to you, that we've had people come from Florida, we've had people come from down toward the coast, and they've come to me and they've told me, Sheriff, we've never seen anything like this. There's no way that you could possibly prepare for this. And this is coming from folks who normally have at least a hurricane once a year. And this hurricane was once in 100 years, or not, if not longer. And so when I look back and I think, I would put the breakdown of communications at the very top of that list, because we've found out that how much we really depend on communications to do our jobs, to function as not only as a community, but for us as a law enforcement agency, the need for the ability to communicate. So.
Has things changed with communications in the last year that might leave us better prepared going forward?
I think the fact that this storm happened, the fact that we now know that we have to do better. When I say better, we have to invest in other equipment that may assist us. Again, this was a situation that we didn't know what we was faced with. You know, we hear about a storm, but we're not used to this. And so we can tell you that we walk away from this, and I would tell you that we will be better prepared because we now know some of the things we didn't know, and we now know that we have to invest in different type of equipment, which we've already started doing, and so that we can now be better prepared, and that's just on the communication aspect. And so there's other areas that we have learned lessons that we can bring forward in helping us do what we do.
I imagine that the Sheriff's Office has a lot of duties. I mean, you do some patrols in the counties, but a lot of what you do is here at the courthouse and everything. But I imagine your deputies were pushed into different roles in Helene. How did they handle that? And what kind of things did you end up picking up that maybe you didn't expect?
So can I give you a short story?
Sure.
So remember I was telling you about my house fire. And so I want to tell you that I was able to get out and go visit some of the residents where my deputies lived. And I was able to see the devastation that they personally endured. And each time I went, I was asking some of my staff, where's the deputy? They said, Sheriff, he's at work. Sheriff, she's at work. And mind you, when I start thinking about my own issue, how is that possible for them to be at work? I would tell you their dedication, their professionalism, there's a need for them. When you start saying do other things, I would tell you that law enforcement officers, these deputies have seen some of the most horrific things anyone could imagine. They keep coming to work. They came during the storm when their own families didn't have different things. Where were they at? At work. And so if there's anything that I want to take back and I want to talk about is how these deputies, our deputies, responded, and whatever you asked them, and I hate saying it this way, but I would tell you that we didn't have nobody call in, right? We didn't have nobody say that, I got this, I got that, I'm not able to come to work today. That did not happen. And then in the midst of this storm, these folks came to work every day. So I would tell you that that's what's important to me, and the fact that they were doing different things, and some was doing things they hadn't done before. And it was a learning experience, and I would just tell you that through this experience, I think we've come out being stronger. We come out, we'll be better, and I will assure you that we'll be better prepared should another storm come.
You know, your deputies showed up, your officers showed up, even when they were dealing with disaster at home.
Yes.
In a lot of cases.
Yes.
But the state also showed up for you, and the country also showed up for you. What did that mean to the department to have boots on the ground from all over?
So I get to tell you another story. So I would tell you that I spent 25 years at the Asheville Police Department, and I was elected in 2018 as being a sheriff. I had no idea what that meant to a sheriff. The North Carolina Sheriff Association, it's like one phone call away. You make a phone call, the resources start coming, the people start coming. And when I started making a phone call to Eddie Caldwell, he's like the CEO for us. When I called Eddie Caldwell, he said, "Sheriff, we've been waiting. Waiting. We have sheriffs lined up, ready, become emotional. We have sheriffs waiting, ready to come to you. They're bringing sidekicks, they're bringing electronics, they're bringing their personnel. They even brought a kitchen to cook, right? They brought cots. Some of them brought their own living quarters, sleeping quarters. And so I can tell you that, man, it's just unbelievable that a phone call away, they started rolling into Buncombe County. Of course, they had that issue at the bottom of the mountain, but then they started trying to find ways around it to get to us. And so not only the people in this state, we have people from Louisiana, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana. And just to know that the compassion that was present, and it's different when they show up and you are so accustomed to being the servant, being the person giving, it becomes a challenge to receive it. And I would tell you that us receiving that was a challenge not only for me, but it's difficult only because you're so used to giving, and then it's difficult to receive. I would tell you that in that video, we start talking about the great United States of America. We start talking about the great state of North Carolina. We start talking about the individuals here in Buncombe County. And so this is just not us reliving, it's our country reliving, it's our state reliving, because I think, I don't know that we can make it without them, right? And I don't know, of course we bonded together, but it's other people from outside that came and loved on us, supported us. And sometimes just a simple call, of course you couldn't text and get these calls, right? But even after the fact, you know, I've had people call and say, "Hey, Sheriff, I was just checking on you." Out of the blue, you just checking on me, right? And so that's very emotional. because of when you experience what this community experienced. And that really leads me to, one of our challenges of how people take advantage of folks as we've been going through this. And so that's another emotional piece, because I started asking myself, how would anyone at this point in time try to take advantage of another human being who's suffered so much, who's been through so much? But people are different. We have some challenging folks. And the bottom line is low life. And I normally don't use terms like that, but that's how I feel about it, is that who would take advantage of someone who just lost their home, lost a family member, and then you come back and take whatever funds that they may have been able to get from the government, you swindle or scam them out of it. It's very low life.
It hasn't stopped for the sheriff's office, because not only did you respond in the days and weeks and months after the storm in searching for people or trying to connect people with their lost loved one, then you've had to follow up and make sure people didn't get taken advantage of a second time.
Yes, and that's another part of the challenge, that we've learned, that the collaboration we must have, right? The collaboration we must have with other partners. And that's part of why I spoke about the people doing the reporting, that I think that's also part of the equation people sometimes overlook or miss, is that we depend on the news folks to get the word out, right? And we depend on the Citizen Times and stuff to write stories and get the information out. And sometimes that's overlooked, and I'm definitely not trying to take nothing from first responders, because they definitely responded. But also behind the scene, we just have to understand that we have to work together as a family. We're all into this together. I've had comments about us not knowing who our neighbors are, and now we do. So there was a lot of positive things, I would tell you, that have come out of this storm also.
That's what I guess you had to work with other agencies, especially when it came to, we had so many missing just because, or maybe they weren't missing because they were cut off communication-wise or whatever. How challenging was that in dealing with finding people or helping people locate people after the storm?
I think that continues to be a challenge. I think that even during the storm, that was a challenge. That was one of the issues that we came up trying to report, how many people was missing, how many lives was lost. And I would tell you a lot had to do with the breakdown of communication. By no means, no measures would we try to be misleading, nor we sought facts, right? And when we went after facts, it was several people trying to do the facts, which only complicated things, and in some cases end up with false information, if you will, because of the breakdown in communication. So I'm not one to try to hide from anything, and I'd like people to know the facts are the facts. We did the best we could at that time, and again, I know for a fact that we had people that was checked 3, 4, 5 times, right? Because different people was checking them. And we didn't really have anything in place to document that I checked and you don't need to go check. And then some would say, well, it's okay that they checked 2 or 3 times. But then we started having to talk about resources and how the resources could have been utilized better. So that's one of the things that I would tell you that we've learned, that we have to do a better job of how we communicate, how we document, how we do this as a unit, opposed to this group did their thing, this group did their thing. And I know a lot of people, I don't want to point fingers, but I'll just tell you as a whole, I feel that we could do a better job.
Has that helped forge partnerships between agencies to better communicate?
I think we always knew we had or needed to, but I think the storm made it that you had to, right? And it wasn't